G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear YouTube. I've been here 1 year. It's the 25th of May 2012, and on the 25th of May 2011 my daughter put the YouTube channel onto my mobile phone, onto this old clunky mobile phone with a 2 megapixel camera, which I'm using because it's a reliable 2 megapixel camera. The rinky-dink new Nokia C500, it is not a reliable 5 megapixel camera. I have to say that every 30 seconds to 7 minutes it spontaneously crashes in the middle of shooting a movie. And it is intensely frustrating to the point where for the 366th movie to go up on my channel, I'm using the old phone because I know it's going to work. It mightn't be as fancy, it mightn't be as high definition, but it will bloody well work. And I can't say that about the new phone. The new phone is a pain in the arse. I think I'm going to give it back to the shop and tell them to do something with it, you know. Hopefully not painful. So, here I am. After a year, I've got 276 subscribers, 40,254 total movie views at my channel, 1,326 total movie views of my movie on my daughter's channel, so 41,500 movie views of my output. 4,000 of those movie views have been about SunFoils, and one YouTuber has put a SunFoil on their car. Now, I don't know whether you heard the cough bark in the background while I was talking, but I'm pretty sure that out here I'm going to find that there's a kangaroo shaped object. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Here we have kangaroo shaped objects who would like to be fed. Now, in the past year, I have taught 6 wild kangaroos to eat bread. Some of them, come on Kevin, come on. Don't make a liar out of me, I've got YouTube running, mate. Some of them eat out of my hand, some of them don't. So, if kangaroos can learn to accept bread from a human, despite the way humans treat kangaroos everywhere except here on my place, you would have thought that human beings would have been able to pay attention to the idea of putting a solar panel on the roof of a car. Wouldn't you? I mean, it's a good idea and I'm giving it away for free because it works. I'm not asking anybody to pay for it, just like I don't ask these kangaroos to pay for the bread that they eat. As far as I'm concerned, the mere fact that they eat the bread and I get to see them eating the bread, that is payment enough for me giving them the bread. Likewise, if people were bright enough to start using SunFoils, just the fact of seeing people putting one of my ideas in a practice would be enough, you know, like it would be good to see that they're not all filthy, careless bastards, you know. Some of them are interested in reducing their fuel burn, reducing their pollution levels, in not trashing the planet as fast as possible and trying to make more money out of it than the bloke down the road. But these kangaroos watched swamp wallabies eat bread for 18 years, and then the first kangaroo ate bread and the whole family watched her for a year. And finally, eventually, this year I've taught at least 6 wild kangaroos to eat bread. In that time, one YouTuber has put a SunFoil on their car. One. It's weird, isn't it? Now, not everybody has to go to the lengths that I did, because I got a bit obsessive, you know. Not only did I streamline the solar panel, I set it up so that it runs as a solar thermal ramjet when it's on the highway in sunlight. I set it up so that it runs as a thermosiphon, and the cold air from the shady patch feeds itself up through these inlet holes because it's denser than the sometimes 50 degrees Celsius air which is underneath the sheet of glass. And the hot air expands, and it has enough power to blow itself out that blast tube that you can just barely sort of see underneath the glass. So it's a 30 watt solar panel that puts 150 watts of heat into the air underneath the glass. If it's 50% efficient, because it's at low speeds, there's nothing to stop the air from just plays itself like a little silent didgeridoo. It's a 75 watt waste heat driven solar thermosiphon running an air pump to cool the panel. And cold panels make more electricity than hot panels. Like, go from 50 degrees Celsius down to 10 degrees Celsius and your output goes up by 35%. Of course, that was the third streamlined solar panel that I made. The second one went on my son's Brumby. It saved 4.2 litres a week. The first one, the Mark 1, well, how's that for a clunky looking object? But as strange as it sounds, it too feeds cooling air to its regulator from an outlet, an inlet under the nose, and the cooling air emerges at highway speed through a slot at the top of the trailing facet. And it's pretty easy to understand how high pressure air coming out of here blows air over there, and that draws air over there, so that unstalls the trailing edge. And the wingtips, well, they're swept, so they're not stalled anyway. So at 90 kilometres an hour, no extra drag, 1.5 litres per week fuel saving. At 100 kilometres an hour, average 4% aerodynamic drag reduction, 5.3 litres a week fuel saving, which is 266 litres a year, which is 720 kilos of carbon dioxide that does not come out of my exhaust in the past year, right? And before I put that solar panel up there, this car used to cruise at 100 k's on the highway 75% of its time, 5% off-road four-wheel drive, 20% in town at 50 kilometres an hour. And it used to average 7.9 kilometres to the litre on a monthly basis. And I thought that was pretty pathetic, really. 100k cruise, not even 8 kilometres to the litre on a monthly basis. And I slowed down to 90 kilometres an hour, and I thereby got 9.4 kilometres to the litre, just by slowing down. When I put that Mark 1 on the roof, 10.6 kilometres to the litre at 90 k's. And I thought, gee, I don't need to go so slow anymore. I sped up to 100, 9.02 kilometres to the litre. So I got 1.03 kilometres just by putting the 5 watt array on the roof. Well, the Mark 3 that's on there now, at 90 k's, 12.47 kilometres to the litre. At 100 k's, 10.6 kilometres to the litre per month. I have done empty tank to empty tank runs of, 11.918, but I don't really pay much attention to them because in real life what happens is the monthly fuel bill. So a year ago I decided to speed up, take advantage of the fact that the wing works better when it's going faster. It's more efficient at sticking the slipstream to the car, so I've got a lower drag coefficient as I get faster and faster, up to about 130 kilometres an hour. And that's totally illegal. I'm supposed to stick at 100 kilometres an hour I cranked my cruise speed up to 105. Not many cops will jump on you for that, right? So I was driving 5% faster and 10.298 kilometres to the litre. I drove 8,839.4 kilometres. I used 858.35 litres. So if you look at SunFoils Short Talk, not only will it tell you how to measure your car for the optimum size panel, you will get to see the Australian Government Commonwealth Scientific Industrial Research Organisation's 2-page evaluation of the SunFoil project, which took them 7 months to come up with. After I sent the project report to my federal member of parliament, who sent it to the Federal Minister for Science, Industry, Innovation and Technology, who sent it to the CSIRO, who sat on it for 2 months and finally started to think about it and spent 5 months cracking their skulls on it. And they had to pull a bloke out of retirement to come up with the observation that the hillbilly is not wrong. I was then told to send it to the Cooperative Research Centre for Advanced Automotive Technology in Melbourne, and what CRC Auto said was, your piece of paper's not shiny enough, it's not up to a sufficient professional standard to attract the interest of a professional investor. They said, you can't patent any of it. If you can't patent it, they can't make money out of stopping other people from doing it. Therefore, they can't justify building a factory to make them because somebody else might start doing it. They also said the car manufacturers have the facility to test stuff, but they don't test aftermarket add-ons, and the people who make aftermarket add-ons have no facilities to test anything. The University of New England says that they don't have an engineering facility and they are not competent to carry out any tests. Dick Smith, the electronic Dick, said he's only a mere car radio installer and he can't understand any of the power coefficients or fuel burn figures or efficiency ratings, and, you know, take it away, not interesting. The guy who flew solo around the world in a turbine helicopter is not interested in reducing his fuel burn. So here I am on YouTube, trying to get YouTubers to put solar panels on their car because that will make the world a cleaner, greener place, and it will make the fuel last longer. And I hate to say it, fellas, but it's a little bit like the old joke, never attempt to teach a pig to sing. It wastes your time and it annoys the pig. Well, I had the idea that this would be more like throwing pearls before swine, or perhaps the swine were not going to knock the pearls out of the way to get to the carrot tops. Maybe it was going to be a bit like feeding strawberries to a pig. And the pig doesn't care whether it eats strawberries or carrot tops. It's happy to eat them. But no, teaching SunFoils to humans is more like casting pearls before swine. Everybody shrugs it off. Oh, my car doesn't burn much fuel to make electricity. Some of them think it burns no fuel to make electricity. Oh, as long as the engine's turning and the alternator's turning, there's no change in the amount of drag. They don't understand that it's an electromagnetic drag brake that responds to the battery's low voltage by producing electricity, by dragging on that belt magnetically. Suffice it to say that if I've got a 25% flat battery because I live 15 minutes from town and the average engine run time is only 6 minutes, my battery is 25% flat, my alternator is at 25% output, and that means I'm putting 2 horsepower into that belt to drive that alternator. I'm only using 5 horsepower to push the air out of the way in town. I'm only using 25 horsepower to push the air out of the way on the highway at 100 k's. 2 horsepower from a 25% flat battery is 40% extra on top of the fuel I would burn in town, with the SunFoil keeping the battery full, and that's what's happening. It's 8% extra on the highway. So yeah, I'm able to drive faster and use less fuel because I've put a solar panel on the roof of the car, because sunlight is cheaper than fuel. Warbles on a lot, Pearlcasting to the YouTubians. Ciao.